Who was interested first? Who said I love you first? Who's more protective? Who cleans more? Who eats the most? Who spends the most money? Who is most likely to start an argument? Who falls asleep first? Who is more annoying? Who loves the hardest?
You better be more concerned. Be more concerned about the woman that I am becoming and less concerned about the woman that I once was.
It was very scary. I heard a big boom, and then I saw the shooter running after someone and shooting. He had a small handgun, and then we ran.
He followed her and chased her down and shot her, like an animal, like he was doing hunting. She didn't deserve to die like this. She didn't deserve nothing. She was a great woman.
In the late hours of April 3rd, 2022, police were called to a scene of unspeakable violence at the Michael Ann Russell Jewish Community Center in North Miami Beach. What they found when they arrived would haunt them forever. A husband, consumed by rage, had opened fire on his wife while she was at the pool with their daughter. He shot her multiple times, but when she attempted to flee, the terror didn't end. He pursued her, firing until his gun was empty. But the horror didn't stop there. As the investigation unraveled, the truth became even more chilling. The woman had been stabbed multiple times by the same man just the previous day. Yet the most unsettling revelation came when detectives uncovered a horrifying pattern. This wasn't the first time this man had killed. He had been linked to the deaths of 2 previous wives, and now a 3rd victim lay in his wake. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was the dark culmination of a twisted history. A history that would only come to light as the investigation deepened, leaving investigators and the public alike questioning how someone could be allowed to live with such a lethal legacy. This is the life and death of Shandell Harris.
Wait, what happened? Girl. What did she say? Bitch, I'm not an Xbox, so I'm not to be played. I will get up off the seat and I will punch you in your face. And my friend, she can't fight, but she keep a lot of me.
Shandell Harris was a 30-year-old mother, a daughter, and a woman with big dreams. Born on July 15, 1991 in Miami, Florida, Shandell grew up in a loving and supportive family. She was the daughter of Sharon and James Harris, with 2 brothers, James Jr. and Aaron, and a sister, Shanice. Their family was a constant source of strength, providing her with the love and encouragement to pursue her passions. Her family's support was the foundation for her aspirations. As a child, Shandell exhibited a keen interest in politics and community service, and that interest only grew as she got older. She attended Miami Northwestern Senior High School, where she was a member of the student government and debate team. Graduating in 2009, she went on to attend Florida International University, where she majored in political science and minored in sociology. It was at FIU that Shandell earned her degree in 2013, graduating with honors. But Shandell had big aspirations.
You better stop letting these motherfuckers sleep on you like you ain't the goddamn prize. Look at your fine.
She dreamed of becoming a Miami-Dade commissioner, hoping to use her voice to improve her community and leave a lasting impact. She was involved in numerous social and civic organizations, such as the NAACP, the Urban League, and the League of Women Voters, always advocating for what she believed in. She also dedicated her time to volunteering at local schools, churches, and shelters, trying to give back to the community that had given her so much. Her passion for public service and making a difference in the world was only surpassed by her love for her daughter, Shania, whom she had at the young age of 18. Shania's biological father passed away in a tragic car accident, leaving Shandell to raise her daughter as a single parent with the help of her family and friends. Despite the challenges, Shandell made sure Shania had the best life possible, pouring her heart into being both a mother and a role model. But behind Shandell's bright future, there was a shadow. She was married to 45-year-old Carl Monte Watts Jr., a man who had been a troubling figure in her life. The two had gotten married in February 14, 2021, after dating for a year. Shandell met Carl at a party. She was drawn to his charm and charisma. He showered her with compliments and gifts, convincing her that he had changed and was ready to start a new life. Carl's criminal past was a warning sign. Carl, a truck driver, had a history of criminal activity that spanned several years. He had been arrested numerous times on charges of robbery, battery, drug possession, and domestic violence. Despite his checkered past, Chandel had hoped that Carl would change after they married, but as is often the case in abusive relationships, the cycle of violence only escalated over time. Chandel had believed Carl's promises of wanting to start a new life. She fell in love with him and, hoping for a fresh start, believed he could be a good father figure for her daughter, Shania. Carl's manipulative charm initially worked, and Chandel, despite her past experiences with hardship, allowed herself to imagine a happy life with him. However, the reality of their marriage quickly turned dark. Carl's true nature began to show after they were married. He became abusive and controlling, isolating Chandel from her loved ones and using money and gifts to manipulate her.
Who was interested first? Who said I love you first? Who's more protective? Who cleans more? Who eats the most? Who spends the most money? Who is most likely to start an argument? Who falls asleep first? Who is more annoying? Who loves the hardest?
To make matters worse, Carl's infidelity was a constant issue, as he was involved with multiple women, even fathering several children with them. Despite numerous attempts to leave him, Carl's always threatened Chandel with harm or even suicide if she left. His violent behavior created a suffocating environment for Chandel, and despite her repeated attempts to break free, she found herself trapped in the relationship. In the weeks leading up to her tragic death, Chandel had become increasingly fearful for her life. She had taken steps to distance herself from Carl, including filing for divorce and reporting his abusive behavior to the Miami police. But Carl's abuse would reach a new level. On April 2nd, 2022, Carl had stabbed Chandel in their apartment in North Miami. During an argument about his ongoing infidelity, Chandel was able to escape to her mother's house, where she and her family called the police. When Carl arrived outside the house, the police were already there, but he fled the scene before they could apprehend him. This violent act was not an isolated incident, but rather part of an ongoing pattern of abusive behavior from Carl. In the days leading up to Chandel's death, she had already made the brave decision to leave him. She filed charges against him for the stabbing and initiated the process for a divorce. Carl, desperate to reconcile, pleaded with Chandel, promising to change. Yet Chandel, now resolute in her decision to end the toxic relationship, refused to back down. Little did Chandel know, the worst was yet to come. On the following day, April 3rd, 2022, Chandel went to the Michael Ann Russell Jewish Community Center in North Miami Beach, bringing her daughter and her mother along for a swimming lesson. What was supposed to be a peaceful outing would soon turn into a nightmare. Carl, enraged by Chandel's refusal to reconcile with him, tracked her down to the community center. By 4:45 p.m., he arrived at the pool area, armed with a gun. Witnesses, including Chandel's mother, Dulcinea Everett, described the terrifying moment.
He followed her and chased her down and shot her, like an animal, like he was doing hunting.
Carl had confronted Chandel at the poolside and allegedly offered her money to drop the charges against him and to stay in their marriage. But Chandel was done, and nothing Carl said could change her mind. Chandel rejected his offer, stating that she did not love him anymore and wanted out of their relationship for good. But Carl Watts wasn't ready to accept the end of their relationship, and Chandel's rejection triggered something far worse. The confrontation quickly escalated, and in a moment of horrific violence, Carl pulled out a gun and shot Chandel multiple times. But Carl wasn't done just yet. He walked behind her as she attempted to flee, chasing her down and continuing to shoot until he had run out of bullets. The scene was utterly horrifying. A mother being gunned down in front of her child, her life snuffed out in an instant by the very man she had once loved. Her mother, Dulcinea Everett, could do nothing but scream in agony as she witnessed the brutal killing of her daughter.
New details about a deadly shooting at the Jewish Community Center in Northeast Miami-Dade. A man accused of shooting and killing his wife just a day after police say he stabbed her.
Police say their domestic violence unit was actively searching for the suspect, 45-year-old Carl Watts, but they weren't able to find him fast enough.
Elliot and Lauren, that's what we're finding out, and our hearts just really are breaking for this family as we learn more and more details. Police say Shondell Harris was shot to death at her daughter's swimming lesson. Her 12-year-old daughter witnessing all of this happen.
As Carl fled the scene, private security guards at the JCC quickly detained him at gunpoint. Police arrived shortly afterward, and Carl was arrested for the murder of Shondell Harris. But the horror of the situation was far from over. While Carl was in custody, authorities began to investigate the chilling details of his past, and they quickly learned that Shondell's tragic death wasn't the first time Carl Watts had been involved in violence.
Now we are learning today that Carl Watts, her accused killer, may also be connected to the mysterious disappearance of another woman.
As police began to piece together Carl's violent history and motives, more details about Carl Watts' violent history came to light. Carl had a history of criminal charges dating back to the early 1990s, including robbery, kidnapping, and drug trafficking. The troubling history raised many questions about how he had been able to slip through the cracks of the justice system for so long. But what investigators found next was far more chilling. Authorities soon discovered that Carl Watts had been involved in at least 2 previous disappearances. 24-year-old Truquita Scott, his ex-girlfriend and the mother of one of his children, vanished in 2014 under suspicious circumstances. Although Carl had been questioned at the time, he was never charged in connection with her disappearance. Investigators soon realized that Carl had been in contact with Truquita the day she disappeared and was in the area where her car was found abandoned.
77 days after she was last seen, and still no new leads, no idea as to where she might be. But they do have a hunch.
We believe we know who's involved, but we need your help.
From the start, they have suspected that her ex, Carl Watts, may know more than he's letting on.
I believe he has some connection with her disappearance.
This was the first indication that Carl's violent tendencies were not an isolated incident, but part of a much larger, deeply troubling pattern. Not only that, another case came to light that only added to the suspicion surrounding Carl Watts. In 2009, 25-year-old Vicki Simmons, another of Carl's ex-girlfriends, was found murdered at a North Miami hotel. Vicki had started to distance herself from Carl, and shortly after their falling out, she was found dead under mysterious circumstances. While no charges were brought against Carl in connection with Vicki's death, her family had long suspected that he was involved. When they learned of Shondell's murder, they immediately made the connection between Carl and the tragic death of their loved one. Carl's history with Shondell's family was equally troubling. The couple had been in an abusive marriage from the start, with Carl isolating Shondell from her loved ones and using intimidation and manipulation to control her. Shondell had tried to leave Carl several times, but he always found a way to force her back into the relationship, often by threatening self-harm or violence. Friends and family members had repeatedly warned Shondell about the dangers of staying with him, but she had hoped that he would change. She wanted to believe that his words were true, that he had changed and wanted a better life. Unfortunately, she would never get the chance to see that change. During his arraignment, Carl showed no emotion as the judge read his charges. He was faced with charges of second-degree murder and several other offenses, including possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, tampering with a witness, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, tampering with physical evidence. He was denied bond. He is being held at the Miami-Dade jail.
Today, Watts appeared in court, his hands cuffed in front of him. He said nothing as a judge upped the homicide charge he's facing.
He should be poisoned in first degree. He went there to the JCC with a gun. Guns aren't allowed in the JCC. And then he shot the victim multiple times.
Watts has an extensive criminal background. He's a person of interest in the mysterious disappearance of Trikita Scott, a Fort Lauderdale woman who shares a child with Watts. And about a month before she went missing, Watts was accused of trying to kidnap a 16-year-old girl from a bus stop. He was arrested, but bonded out of jail.
Carl pleaded not guilty to the charges and requested a jury trial. His case is still moving through the legal system. In the wake of the tragic murder of Shandell Harris, the case gained widespread attention due to the horrific nature of the crime and the revelations about Carl Watts' past. The community was left reeling from the shocking event, struggling to comprehend how someone could commit such an act of brutality. Shandell's death shocked the Miami community and left her family grieving the loss of a woman who had been filled with potential, dreams, and the desire to make a difference in the world. Her mother, Dulcinea, who witnessed the entire horror unfold, would later share her heartbreak, calling Shandell's death a sacrifice, something that she believed could bring closure to other families who had been affected by domestic violence. Yet the sadness was overwhelming, and the tragic end to Shandell's life left a hole in the hearts of those who knew and loved her.
Everything was for her child and for her marriage. She was a happy person, and she didn't deserve this.
Losing her daughter in such a public and horrific manner was unbearable. She spoke out, sharing her heartbreak and calling for justice. The grief of losing Shandell was compounded by the fact that her daughter had tried to escape Carl's clutches, only to be hunted down in broad daylight. Although she found solace in knowing that Carl would never harm anyone again, Shandell's daughter, traumatized by what she had witnessed, was offered counseling and support by the authorities. She would forever bear the emotional scars of that day. Despite the profound sadness, there was a glimmer of hope that justice would be served for Shandell, devastated by the loss of her mother, vowed to make her proud by pursuing a career in politics, a tribute to her mother's legacy and dedication to serving others. Carl Monte Watts now faces a life behind bars, but the scars left by his actions will last a lifetime for Shandell's family and all those who knew and loved her. The case of Shandell Harris drew attention to the issue of domestic violence, particularly in cases where abusers had a history of violent behavior. Many domestic violence awareness groups spoke out about the need for greater intervention and support for victims before it's too late. This case served as a painful reminder that even in the face of repeated threats, many victims struggle to break free from the cycle of abuse, often out of fear for their safety or the safety of their loved ones. The case also raises critical questions about the effectiveness of systems meant to protect victims from abusive partners. Despite multiple opportunities to intervene, including a history of violent threats, Carl Watts was able to continue his abusive behavior until it tragically culminated in murder. The system's failure to prevent this tragedy has led many to call for increased protections for victims, especially in cases where there is a known history of violence. My deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of Shandell Harris. No words can truly ease the pain of such a tragic loss, and our hearts go out to all who knew and loved her. May Shandell's legacy of strength and love live on in the hearts of those who cherished her. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.